GUFON, the bad boy of ufology, with special guest Rich Giordano. Episode 40 of the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast.
Welcome to the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast. Coming to you from the glacial dumping grounds known as the Michigan Basin. I'm Michelle.
And I am Wayne.
And we are a Michigan-based husband and wife educator and podcasting duo that after having a UFO sighting in March of 2018, have started to examine UFOs and other paranormal topics within Michigan and beyond.
Topics include UFOs, the paranormal, conspiracy theories, ghosts, alternative history and archaeology, cryptids, and all things strange and paranormal. So sit back, grab a drink, and come along with us on this journey down the paranormal rabbit hole. Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Unfortunately, I'm going to be flying solo tonight as Michelle is out with a pretty nasty cold and not feeling so well. So this will be a short introduction to our special guest tonight, who is Rich Giordano from GUFON. But first, before we do that, let's talk about where you can find us. Of course, you can find us over on YouTube. Just search us out by typing in Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast. It's all one word. Or you can find the link to our location in the show notes. Also, if you have a story you would like to tell, we would like to talk to you. You can reach out to us at mi.ufo.podcast@gmail.com. Send us a brief summary of your experience and we will contact you to discuss things further and try to get you or your story on the podcast. Once again, that email is mi.ufo.podcast@gmail.com. Also, don't forget to check out our Patreon page if you would like to support the podcast there. It is patreon.com/MIUFOSPEP, where you can sign up. We can't wait to give you a shout out for all of your support. And once again, speaking of Patreons, we need to give a shout out to our new Patreon, Ed S, for supporting the podcast. And we also need to give a shout out to Hava H for her support. Thank you very much, and it is with people like you that help support the podcast. We couldn't do what we do. So thank you very much. Speaking of support, let's go ahead and hear a word from our sponsors right here in our hometown, New Boston Coney and Grill.
Traveling near New Boston, Michigan? Hungry? Well then, you need to check out New Boston Coney and Grill tucked away at 37005 Huron River Drive. With daily specials, homemade soups and desserts, and a staff that makes you feel like family, you will not be disappointed. Give them a try for dine-in or carry-out at 734-606-5313. You can find their page, including their menu, on Facebook. Bon appetit!
All right, with Michelle being out on this episode, there's not going to be a news section this time, though there is a lot that needs to be talked about, but we'll get to that in the next episode. But for now, let's go ahead and hear a little bit about Mr. Rich Giordano. GUFON means Giordano's UFO Network. You can listen to GUFON only on YouTube. The show is hosted by Rich Giordano. As a boots-on-the-ground UFO paranormal researcher since 2004 and a radio personality since 2006, Rich has pioneered the most original podcast UFOlogy has ever enjoyed. The show is based off of Rich's own experiences in this field, exposing the charlatans as well as teaching debunking techniques on videos, as well as body language techniques for those storytellers. GUFON is a show that is constantly mutating, a serious show with a slice of comedy from a host who leaves it all on the table. GUFON is very different from every other paranormal podcast because the style is original. This show runs solely from the mind of Rich Giordano. With over 18 years and over 21,000 hours of hunting UFOs, Rich knows every trick and has made every mistake. If someone is lying or hoaxing their UFO video, Rich will figure it out 98% of the time. The truth hurts the liars, and that's a good thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Rich Giordano from GUFON. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are joined right now by our very special guest. The stars and planets have aligned, and we finally got him on. Rich Giordano from GUFON. Rich, thanks for joining us, man.
Man, thanks for having me. And finally, yeah, glad to be here. Appreciate it. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I hope so. We got just you and I tonight. I guess it's guys' night out, as Michelle is feeling under the weather for this one. So we'll try not to get too crazy, because I know she's somewhere here in the house and she can throw things pretty good and hit me if that's the case. So
well, let's get it on then.
All right. So first of all, can you tell us and our audience a little bit about your background and what made you decide to get into UFOs and the paranormal?
Oh, wow. Well, you hear this story a lot. It happened by accident, which it did. Now, my whole life, I've been into UFOs ever since I was 5 years old. When I saw one with my dad, at least that's what everybody in the neighborhood came out and saw. And I believe it was 1977 when we had a huge blackout on the Northeast, on the whole side of the United States. It was a huge blackout, and UFOs were seen that night. And I remember my dad, we were taking out the trash and we saw neighbors looking up, and we're like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Hey, you see that up there?" And we're like, "Oh yeah," it was a little tiny red dot. And my father was, trying to take pictures of it. I remember with this Kodak camera, and they never came out. I remember then he got it developed. We're going to get a UFO. We got proof, Richie. It never came out. So throughout my life, I Close Encounters of the Third Kind, In Search of, National Geographic, and all these shows that came out. I know National Geographic is more of a planetary thing, but all these types of shows kind of piqued my interest in things that are unusual and that don't make sense or are paranormal. And the more and more I watched these Space 1999 and Battlestar Galactica shows, I believed that stuff was going to happen by the year 2000, like we all did, especially in the early 80s, late 70s. So fast forward all the way, up until I was 34 years old, 2004, April 15th, I bought a dog, took the dog outside for a walk at 10 o'clock at night. With my wife, I got the dog for her. We sat down on the Chase lounges and looked up, and she noticed it first. And we saw a couple of lights, which looked like satellites, but they went left, right, and then, up and down, I guess you could say, or north, south, and then west and east. And I said, "That can't be satellites." And she's like, "Yeah, it must have been. It had to be either that or it was, a plane doing stunts." And I'm like, "I don't know. It's 10 o'clock at night." So the next night I went out, and I went out by myself because my wife was going to bed, and I saw the same thing in the general same part of the sky, but it did a whole different thing. It went, I don't know. I guess if you were to measure it and hold your hands out, it went probably like 2 feet north, and then it came halfway back, and then it disappeared. And I went out at the same time. So that night I went online and I looked up UFOs over Phoenix to see if anybody reported it, if anybody else saw it. And I found this website, ufosoverphoenix.com. I met this guy, Jeff Willis, who runs that website. We became friends. and he told me how I need to get this camera, certain camera, and start recording stuff in the daytime. Well, a couple of months goes by, and June 29th, I believe it was, I captured my first triangular shaped formation of lights right over my house, and watched it park over these mountains called the McDowell Mountains and then slowly disappear. Yeah, it was pretty wild stuff. So I started seeing things that other people couldn't see because I had incredible vision at the time too. I just happened in February earlier that year, my wife got me LASIK surgery for my eyes. I couldn't even read that big E on the eye chart. And now my vision was 2015. It was better than normal, and it stayed that way for a long time. And what did I do? I kept sky watching and seeing things and making great observations to things that nobody else could see. And it couldn't have happened at any other time in my life either. If it would have happened a year earlier, I wouldn't be here. If it happened a year later, I wouldn't be here. Everything happened when it was supposed to. And I always think I was being not trained or bred or whatever, but pushed in this direction. And what I'm doing now is something I've always wanted to do, is to talk to people on a microphone. I always wanted to be a sportscaster. It didn't turn out. And an actor, comedian, whatever. And created a website, Seeing UFOs, which is no longer. It got a virus, and you can find it on the Wayback Machine. Some of my sightings are on there. The website was huge. Lots of success. Almost 1 million people were there within a year, a month. 914,000 people a month came that last month I had that site.
Wow.
Here we are. And I created the radio show. I had the AZ UFO show, which there's 500 plus episodes of that. And then I got away from that name, and Paranormal Code, and now GUFON. That's it.
That's
man.
Very cool. Now, would you say that the time that you had those sightings, was that before the massive everybody owns a drone time?
Yeah. It was 2004.
Oh, yeah.
When I saw it, yeah. Drones didn't really start coming out to 6 years ago, maybe 2015, somewhere in there, that they really became affordable. Because I know friends of mine bought a drone. It was $3,000 and it was huge way back in the day.
Yeah, those are the ones that have like the stabilizing cameras on them and, semi-professional for videoing. Yeah, those are pretty damn cool.
They had to put a GoPro. They taped a GoPro to theirs that didn't have a camera. That's how old theirs was. Pretty cool stuff, man.
Yeah. So why are you passionate about what you do? And what exactly would you say that you do? Because I did read to our audience your background or the about page of your YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
So why are you passionate about what you do?
Because there's a ton of people out there making money off of false claims. And I'm not talking about YouTube channels per se. I'm talking about people in particular. It started out, actually, the way it started out, I started becoming friends with these people because I would send them my sightings and they would post them to their channels, or actually websites back then. No channels yet on YouTube. There wasn't a YouTube. And they started, and nobody ever investigated me. Nobody ever said, why do you see so many things? I mean, what is this stuff that you're seeing? And of course, a lot of that stuff I've debunked by now, but there's a lot of things that I captured nobody can explain. But it bothers me that they use my footage in a compilation video of 3 hours of stuff that they put as a presentation. Jaime Maussan, for instance, he's the reason I'm in this the way I am now, because I became friends with him early on, started talking to him a little bit here and there, and he invited me to go to one of his convention things and showcase my videos. And somebody gave him a hefty garbage bag, a big black one, video. It was a video of a hefty garbage bag, but it was a beautiful UFO if you didn't know what it was. And they gave it to him, and he put it into the thing and into the video demonstration or presentation, and it got a standing ovation. People were going nuts over this thing. I got to tell you, it was one of the best things I've ever seen. But knowing what it was, I didn't do it. Somebody I knew did it, gave it to him. And he accepted it. And it bothered me. And he didn't question anything that was mine, his, theirs. He just took it because it looked good.
So were they trying? It sounds like they were trying to set him up and prove that, he's just accepting anything and putting it out there.
That's what he did. He proved it. Actually, he did it to prove to me that Jaime's a dirty guy. He is, but he isn't. It's just, in this field, Third Phase of Moon gets in a lot of trouble for this, as you know. They get evidence videos sent to them, and they post it up as fast as possible to be the first. And, that's part of this business. It always has been. And people get on them for not doing research, and then come to find out 12 hours later, it was a weather balloon or whatever. And they looked stupid for it. But I used to be against that too, and I still am. But I understand getting things out first. What I don't like is when people are purposely making it themselves, creating the hoax themselves, or accepting it knowing it's a hoax or a balloon or something mundane. Just because it looks good doesn't mean it's a UFO. And a lot of people, they get confused with that. It's amazing to me. And I try to teach that on the show.
It almost seems like with Third Phase of Moon, it's almost like a guilt by association.
Mm-hmm.
They're just putting things out there and people jump all over them about it. And it's not their material. They've had something sent to them and they're just presenting it and basically exposing it to people to make their own decision. They're not I wouldn't call them like you being actual researchers when they're doing that. Now, maybe they are actual researchers when they're doing documentaries and things like that. But when they're doing let's get the video out first, they're not researchers, right? They're not researching anything.
No, they're TMZ. They take what's given to them. And I guess if it passes their test of what a UFO should look like, not CGI, not a reflection, things like that, then they'll post it. And that's the same thing Jaime Maussan does. A Hidden Underbelly does it. Mavi 777, Look Now, all these channels do it, but nobody's picking on them. But Third Phase is one of the biggest. That's why. Secure Team 10, another one, 2 million subscribers. He just called a reflection a legitimate alien spaceship. And he got almost 1 million views on that. So that bothers me.
No, I agree. Especially with how Michelle and I got into this with our sighting, and I still, can't believe in the fact that we're even here having this conversation with somebody like you with 18 to 20 years and the thousands of hours of experience when it comes to this stuff. And I don't think we're any closer to information other than other people have seen things, but it just, talking about Third Phase of Moon and things like that, I've seen some pretty blatant hit pieces done that were about you recently for one reason or the other. And so what would you say people misunderstand the most about you and what you're trying to do with GUFON?
That I'm not here to hurt anybody. People think I'm here to call people out and hurt them. And I do say things that can be misconstrued or taken the wrong way. I think joke first, serious second, and that's always been me. Every time I see something, I think, my God, this is funny because, but let's talk about why. And in the serious part of it, I kind of see everything, the life as a big joke board for me. I take life very seriously. No, I don't think a lot of people realize that. But I want to lighten I guess not the stigma, but everybody's so darn serious all the time, and you can't joke about this or you're going to be, not credible anymore. You're going to lose your credibility if you joke. If you call this person a name, oh, well, you just created an enemy right there. Well, if they're saying something that I don't agree with and that is a fact, and they're still saying it as, and it's a lie, that's going to make me mad. I'm going to say something about that person. And people choose sides in this field. And we've seen people flip. I just found out one of my good friends was talking, a lot of crap about me in the chat room, and it made me very upset. And I thank you for reminding me, Rich. I have to block him. So, and this person, and that's what saddens me. It's like, how can you do something like that, look me in the face, and then flip? But I don't want to talk about that. I know I'm going off on a tangent there, but this field is it's very sensitive, this field.
Yeah, well, and that kind of leads me to my next question. Actually, you're kind of going right into this. But what are your thoughts on the current state of ufology? I know what I've seen this last 2 years that Michelle and I have been digging into things. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say disgusting. That's kind of a very loaded word, but very disappointing in what I see with people. The lack of any kind of humor, the hit pieces I've seen on you when you're joking around. I mean, you're a part-time, or you're a comedian in your off time, and maybe people need to understand that. You like to poke fun at things. You have your own way of doing things, but the current state of ufology just seems like everything else. It's polarized. You're either a firm believer and aliens are coming down to save the planet, healing you, sticking things in you, or whatever, or you're Mick West and everything is garbage. But there's no in between. There's no middle ground. There just seems like, you either believe it or you don't. And it's almost like religious zealots anymore. So again, what is your thoughts on the current state of what's going on here with ufology?
The current state has turned into a political one of ufology, and I am not choosing sides, but I am an independent. Politics shouldn't matter when it comes to ufology, but let me tell you, it's all that matters in ufology. To me, that's my opinion on it. And I see, because it's 85% male, 15% female, 14% female, and 1% is it non-binary? I don't know. I'm trying to make a joke.
Somewhere in there,
But they brought the cancel culture into this field. They brought do it my way or the highway, rules for me, not for thee. So anything that I have said and done has been done 10 times over by the people who hate me. They do it too. They're and I forgot where we were going with this, the current state of ufology. Yeah, they're doing the same things that I'm doing, but doing it much worse. Like, I just make a few, cracks on my show. They put out videos, hours and hours of talking time, and shows dedicated to Third Phase of Moon and me being whatever, But the current state of ufology right now is in a state of lull, Lull. It is very quiet in the field. There's nothing new. There's not a lot of TV time for Lou Elizondo, Jeremy, and all these guys, who go on all the time. We are waiting for the next big thing, and I think it's coming either right before the holidays or right after New Year's. But there's something brewing. There's a pattern in ufology. And the pattern is there is no pattern, but when it's quiet for a while, something's about to drop.
Well, did you look just odds? Yeah. Did you look into, I saw a quick news story. I haven't dug into it, but the UFOs over Ukraine. Mm-hmm. Have you dug into that? Speaking of there being a lull and it's all quiet. I just happened to see a news article pop up about that yesterday. What do you make of that? What's going on there?
Unfortunately, I didn't dive into it. I just read the headlines, and they're talking about UFOs, and I think a lot of that stuff is probably drones just surveying the area. That we see them all around volcanoes now and waterfalls, and all over the world people are seeing these things, and they kind of wobble. How drones have a certain signature. You can easily tell a drone And I'm not sure if that's it, but I don't think there's any UFOs over in Kiev or wherever it is. I don't know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean Wayne. I just haven't dove into it enough.
Not a problem. When I see some of these video footages, and you're right, drones move a certain way because they're still aerodynamical. They're still moving around based on air currents and power to overcome drag and thrust and all of this stuff, because they're a machine that's in the air. But then there's the ones that don't seem like they're being affected at all by the wind or air currents or density or anything like that. They're just there. And, when Michelle and I saw that huge triangle that we saw, that's kind of what it was like. It was just there. And it was just so bizarre that you can't rationalize what you're seeing. So it just becomes very freaky, like frightening, like that should not be there. Like it can't sit there like that. You're used to an airframe or something like that creating lift. And all it is 3 big glowing orbs in this weird translucent body sitting over the road. And it makes no sense. And of course, we were not thinking about taking a picture or anything like that. We were kind of awestruck by it. Like, let's get the hell out of here, though.
Really?
So, yeah. And so I don't know. I've never seen anything videoed or a picture of anything like that from anybody else, but people have said that they've seen that same kind of thing up here in Michigan. And so, when you said you saw your triangle, what set it apart from something that might have been actually flying? What did you notice about it?
Well, what I saw 5 times and recorded 5 times were 3 orbs in a triangle formation. And a couple of those videos, the orientation of those orbs moved. And, instead of it being a triangle, they almost went in a straight line at one point. So I don't, I don't think mine was one solid ship. I think mine either was 3 satellites that I constantly see and record, but it isn't. It's at different times. And two of those times it was on the first day of summer, which is interesting to me. But anyway, they were years apart. But I don't think it's one ship, not mine. And if it is, then they have the ability to change their orientation, which is possible. Yeah, so maybe it was one big ship. But I saw stars in between, when it went over and all that. It didn't make any waves as it passed by stars. And you can clearly see that on the videos. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to get 3 points of light on video 5 times in 6 years. I mean,
especially equal distant apart like that.
Not all the time.
No.
Just 2 of those sightings, they were static, like in place when they moved. And the other times they weren't like turning or anything. It was just like one would slow down and it would change the orientation of it. It's just weird. That's why I don't think it's satellites. Like, what are they doing? Flying secret stuff right above my head?
Yeah. And satellites don't usually change direction and
slow down or anything. Yeah.
Right.
Or speed up. Yeah.
Okay. So the next question I got for you is kind of long, and as Dark Journalist likes to say, going into the deep dive, right?
Nice.
We're going deep. All right. And we're probably going to ruffle some feathers, but I would like to get to some point here where what we saw makes some kind of sense about something. I'm not signing off on aliens and any of that, but so let's talk about this for a minute. We've seen this strange evolution of ufology from everyone is crazy to hearings now with government officials, new government offices being created, and people like Lou Elizondo, Christopher Mellon, Dr. Gary Nolan, former CIA Director John Brennan, and Jim Simivan, scientists like Hal Puthoff, and a whole host of other people coming forward supporting UFO and UAP phenomenon, and some of those people are even talking about being abducted. Do you think they are being legit, or do you think there is something darker going on here?
Yeah, I think there's something. I don't know if it's darker. It's just a different shade of what we're being told it is. That's for sure. Because obviously the government isn't going to give us disclosure. And Lou Elizondo has now infiltrated the Galileo project as well as Space Force and other things of that nature that are government affiliated with. You know, like the new office, that Arrow, which is going to change again its name. Man, I tell you, I don't. If aliens were here and they were modifying us and changing the way we are, I could see them abducting us forever because we're an evolving species. We're always changing. They monitor everything we eat, maybe, and see if we're being, you know, if we can overcome certain sicknesses or whatever they're doing, if that's even what they're doing. Yeah, I mean, if aliens are doing stuff like that and they made a deal with humans, we could never know about that. If there was some contract in the 50s that supposedly expired by now, and now there's these bad aliens that are hanging around the planet that are looking to take over, and the good ones are keeping them out. And it's happening right above our heads, but I've never seen the evidence because it's happening in another dimension or another reality. And if that's true, and we can talk to them telepathically from one side of the galaxy to the other, anything is possible. I mean, you have to think of it because that's what they're saying now, that we can. Lou Elizondo, I mean, he's in the government. He works for the government. He's in these projects. He's a main figurehead in mainstream media. He goes on Tucker Carlson saying that we don't know where they come from. We just know that they're there. And we don't have the technology to understand it yet. But there is a possibility that we could talk to them telepathically. How do they jump from, you know, them being a threat to now all of a sudden we're talking to them telepathically within a couple of years? It is a really strange change in the narrative, which makes me think there's something dark going on. And, you know, I don't want to say it here because it's going up on YouTube, but imagine the worst thing possible, and it could be a farming of humans for all we know that's really going on. And I'm not talking all humans. I'm talking about smaller ones, if you get my drift. So yeah. I think it's a sick world. And if the aliens are a part of that, what do they care as long as they get what they need? Now, on the flip side of that, the aliens could be here to monitor us to make sure we don't kill ourselves. But why didn't they do that the last 5 extinction level events that happened? You know, so I can't buy it. I don't know what to buy because I don't know anything. I'm not in the know. You're not in the know. Nobody is. I don't even think Lou is. Lou's just told what to say and when to say it. That's what I think. That's my opinion.
You know, I heard him doing an interview and he said one thing I thought was very interesting. He said something to the effect of, and I'm just paraphrasing here because I don't have the quote in front of me, but his idea was that there is something here and we should probably behave like we don't really realize that we know that they're here because we don't want that attention brought to us, or it was something along those lines. So they think from that threat narrative. So in other words, like if you're walking down a dark alley and you know you can see somebody hiding in a shadow, but the only way they're going to jump out at you is if they realize that you know that they're there. I mean, and that sounds like Lou doing his counterintelligence thing, right? Trying to get information about what they know about us. You know, it's that constant double speak and back and forth. So what are your thoughts on that?
On that, my gosh, I never even thought about it.
That's an easy one, right?
It is. I'm trying to remember everything you just said because I was thinking of what you were saying. Repeat it again so I make sure I understood you correctly.
Yeah. So basically what he was saying is that if we show things evidence that we know they're there, then they're going to start trying to interact with us, and we may not want that.
Too late. We've already recognized them years, decades, hundreds, thousands of years ago. There's drawings of them, cave art and stuff like that. I don't know if there's cave art, but I think there might be somewhere. But there's definitely frescoes, I guess that you can call them, and paintings in the 1600s. So we know it goes back quite a ways, maybe birth of Christ, and all that stuff. Yeah, I don't buy what he's saying. I think that's silly. And why would you say that? So you're telling us to not go with our instincts to try to find out what the truth is by looking for aliens or finding out what they are, because if we do, be careful what you wish for. Yeah, no, sorry, it's too late for that. We already sent out Voyager with that record on it, looking for alien life. Can't do it. You got to go back 40 years in time. Sorry. Start over.
Yeah, I mean, we broadcast from this planet like crazy. I mean,
right?
So, if there is something out there, they know we're here. We just don't have the technology to recognize that they might be here.
If they're here, and they don't want us to know, they won't let us know. Yeah. I just think that we can't see them. I think that they have this cloaking technology. I really do. I think they can do something or live in a spectrum of light that we just can't see. That spectrum of light is unbelievably huge. We see such a small fraction out of it.
Oh, yeah, that's tiny.
Mind-boggling, really. Yeah.
Well, here's another one I want to go on a deep dive with you, because this is something personally I actually enjoy talking with people about and actually researching and reading scientific papers about this. And, it is that idea. And we kind of talked about this a little bit on your show about the ancient lost technology of humans. So when you start looking into these topics, you can see evidence that's all around you, whether it's the pyramids of Giza, the Sphinx, places like Pumapunku, Machu Picchu in South America. You got very high quality precision items that are being found that are much older than items found that are younger. So in other words, the technology that created the older items seems to have been lost, and the newer items that were created are crappier than the older ones. So what are your views on these ideas? And do you think any of this may be linked to the UFO phenomenon we see today?
Well, unfortunately, ancient aliens corrupted my mind.
Yeah, so, that's not good. I don't buy into that.
But how can you say everything they say is just made for TV? I mean, there's got to be some legitimacy to some of the things they're talking about, and some of the tools that they say they found that, couldn't have been done back in the day unless there was machinery involved. Look, yeah. I think they were here. I think they brought technology and they didn't leave it behind. I think they took everything with them because it was easy to take it with them. It wasn't like they had to build factories. I think the stuff was already made, and they somehow, whatever they did, press a button and it filled a field I'm thinking of Coral Castle. Are you familiar with Coral Castle?
Yeah.
That guy was a 135-pound Italian guy, 5'3", and he has a 10-ton doorway or thing that you can just push with your fingers.
Yeah, it's so well balanced.
Yeah, and he moved all this coral around by himself, tons of stuff. And they say he had this technology that was used by the Egyptians, which supposedly could be alien technology. I try to think, if the Egyptians made this technology, where are the places that build them, the machine shops? Where are they? Seriously, what? There has to be something to build the machines. The machines have to build the machines. Something's got to build that too.
Right.
So where is it? We haven't found it yet. Is that what you're going to tell me? The factory? You haven't found the factory yet, but we found, and that's possible. There's so much under the sand that we don't know. And then sadly, I think that these people who protect the antiquities in history lie about what they find, and they put it away and never let us know because it would change everything we believe in. So yeah, I think there's and like Bob Lazar said, there's possible found technology, ancient alien technology. I don't say it's all bull crap. I think there's some truth to it. It's just, how do we know what is? It's just because that art is in 3D on a a monolith of stone or granite. How did they do that so well? Well, they can. That's all they did all day and night. They didn't have TV. They didn't, they're not on a cell phone, or were they? I don't know, but
yeah. What do you make? Speaking of that, what do you make of like places like Göbekli Tepe, where those things were purposely buried, and then you see how those things were carved in relief and just amazing. And it goes back to before the last ice age, when only humans were running around in loincloths and being hunter gatherers, yet they created these amazing, I mean, and that field is huge. They say there's possibly 50 or 100 of these buried circular temples or whatever they may be. What's your thoughts on that?
That's amazing. Yeah, it's, I think, 15,000 years old. So it goes back 5,000 more years than we think, that we came out of the caves and started farming and everything. No, man, I think they're wrong. And I think that goes right up against what they've been saying all along. And nobody's complaining about it. Nobody's changing the history books that I found out. They're still ignoring it pretty much. Like, how can you ignore that? And they say they only unearthed about 6% of that, 7%. Yeah. And it looks like a lot of stuff has been buried. Like you said, 50 of those things are just waiting to be unearthed. And not all of them are probably going to be exactly like that.
Right.
They say that was probably like a place where people went to worship, because they didn't find anything else around there that would show they were living in that immediate area. People hiked to go to that place, so they think it was a place to pray, or I don't know, it had some special meaning to them.
Yeah.
But were all those things, like, I know they're in their circles and they were all buried, right?
Yeah, but purposely buried.
But what if they were not always in the circle? What if they took them from someplace else and then they just buried them that way? So I don't know if that's true or what, but man, they got so much work. In our lifetime, they won't even have that stuff unburied.
No. I mean, sad. Yeah, it's really impressive when you dig into that. I think it was Graham Hancock that said that his idea is that place was used as a dissemination of information, because we see people go from hunter gatherers to beginning societies and agricultural, becoming agricultural type of societies where they start using different types of tools. So it was like a meeting place, like you said, it was a place of importance. But his idea is that, like, these humans that survived this cataclysm that happened during that time, which brought the end of the ice age to an end, that, they came here to learn from those survivors how to reboot technology and reboot society.
Oh, wow.
So I always thought that was very, an interesting idea. Now, I'm like you when it comes to where are these tools that were used to do this, because there's no way a diorite pounding rock and a copper chisel is going to do all the things that you see and the precision that is used on those statues and things. There's no way. The saw cuts, the tubular drills, I mean, we haven't found any of those, but there's holes that are perfect with groove marks, millimeters apart. So what happened to those tools? I think, that's a big question. Did somebody go and find them and hide them all away because they want to say that Egypt was the beginning of societies back, 5,000-10,000 years ago? I don't know, but it's really weird. But that's a good point you bring up.
Grave robbers and thieves, and over time people have stolen all that stuff, I think, and it's either that or it's given back, to people that watch over it. I don't know, but everybody tries to make money. So I would imagine people tried selling that. And over time, I think collectors of this stuff, people in government or perhaps museums around the world go looking for these artifacts to buy from people because they don't want them out in the public, get ruined or lost or whatever. So maybe a lot of that stuff has been recovered by our government and or government helpers, and it's just stowed away, which it is. We know a lot of stuff that they found in Egypt will never see the light of day. I saw a documentary recently where they brought us down into a place that stores a lot of the stuff that we'll never see. And it was amazing how much stuff was in this place. The public will never see it. Why? That's the big mystery.
Well, because then they get people like us that want to ask questions about it. They don't tell us honest answers, probably because they don't know. And then we start speculating, and then we always end up somewhere where it's aliens.
Yeah,
right.
That's for sure. Why not? It is. That's what makes sense.
All right, everybody. We're going to take about a 5-minute break to hear a word from our sponsors.
Hi, this is Ray Szymanski, author of the Alien Shades of Grays trilogy, and you're listening to Wayne and Michelle on the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast.
Hi, I'm Greg Little, co-author of Origins of the God with England's Andrew Collins. It's a great book. It's about UFOs and the paranormal, and it gives an explanation. It's not what you think. And you are listening to Wayne and Michelle on the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast.
My name is Burton, and I am the host of Follow the Reaper podcast, where every episode we examine first and secondhand true paranormal encounters. And you're listening to Wayne and Michelle on the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast.
Hi, everyone. This is Jared Murphy of NotAliens.com, and you are listening to Wayne and Michelle from Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast.
Hey there, it's Richard Serrett, occasional weekend guest host of Coast to Coast AM and host of The Conspiracy Show, and you're listening to Wayne and Michelle's Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast.
What's up, everyone? This is Burton.
And Aaron from Lost in the Dark podcast.
And raise your horns because you're listening to Wayne and Michelle from the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast.
What is up, you guys? It's your girl Gemma Jade from Gemma Jade YouTube, Moon Bear Oracle, Paranormal Chop Shop. You're here listening to Wayne and Michelle with the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast.
Hi, this is Chris Lato of the Chris Lato YouTube channel, retired F-16 pilot turned UAP investigator, and you are listening to Wayne and Michelle on the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast.
Hi, this is Terry Lynn Keel, Director of MUFON Memberships, investigator, demonologist, and author of Alien Healing, the true story of a benevolent extraterrestrial. And you're listening to Wayne and Michelle on the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Michael Schratt, military aerospace historian and private pilot, and you are listening to Wayne and Michelle at the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast, and we're glad to have you with us today.
Hi, this is Sev Talk from MUFON and the author of You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens and the host of Alien Spirit TV with Sev on YouTube. You're listening to Wayne and Michelle at the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast.
What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? This is Big Willie with the UFO Garage podcast, where we're all about UFOs, aliens, and all things weird. I also run a podcast, Band of Bearded Brothers, with my brother Micah, BOBB for short, and you are listening to Wayne and Michelle with the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast. So take a seat and buckle up as they educate us on all things woo.
You know, I think if you look at a lot of the mythology that's out there too, and religious texts that talk about these huge floods that happened, you know, a lot of that stuff might have just been, you know, washed away, destroyed. I'm thinking repurposing. I know that people came back into Egypt after whatever this cataclysm was and began repurposing things. They could have melted down some of this stuff, you know, and used it for whatever. So
what is it called when the rocks are melted together? You know, you've seen that before.
You mean when they go molten and they mix them?
Yeah, they form them in the walls. They make walls and blocks out of them. You've seen that in ancient times.
What is
that called again? I forget what it's called.
Oh,
the word for it. That's all right. We'll
yeah,
I know it'll come to me in a minute.
If you look at, I know exactly what you're talking about, because if you go like to Peru and South America, you see those giant megalithic blocks that are, you know, these huge blocks that are fit together, and it's like there's no signs of them being worked at all, and they're fit together perfectly. They're geometric.
Yeah, they were like molded together like clay.
Yeah,
they were.
Like, yeah, that's exactly what it seems like, and nobody knows how they did it. And you're right,
wild.
but the name of that process escapes me. Some type of polygeum.
No, it's not that. I know. I think it starts with an E, but anyway.
Yeah, we'll think of it after we stop the interview.
Right, I remember.
So staying on this kind of line of reasoning, what about Antarctica?
Oh, yeah. It's a great place. Wouldn't want to live there.
Why would you take heads of state and an astronaut and people down to a place that's very difficult to get to?
I think they were brought to either a buried UFO, like in the movie The Thing or in one of the recent Superman movies, or it's they found some sort of building under ice or some sort of something. I really do. Or aliens. Why else would people put all that risk out there to go to Antarctica to look at something? So what would it be? A private conversation between people? No. Is it artwork? No. Technology? Okay. Now we're talking something that could blow up the world. Maybe it was some sort of time capsule. You know, they opened it up and out, you know, like in Raiders of the Lost Ark, you open it up and all this power comes out. Maybe they did. Maybe they opened up a portal to another dimension. Maybe there's a Stargate down there. You know,
so they took Obama down there. What were they going to do? Throw him through it?
Maybe they did. Maybe Obama's not really Obama right now.
Right. Now he's been replaced.
It could be another Obama. Maybe that's what they were doing, replacing the popular people. You know, Buzz Aldrin, you know, he got a little nutty in his old age.
That sure did happen.
But he was like that before he went there anyway.
Yeah.
But why Buzz Aldrin of all people?
Wasn't
Think
he
about it.
the one? He was a big proponent of there was somebody on the moon watching them.
Yeah, I know.
And
Yeah,
he was
he is.
talking all kinds of crazy stuff before he was brought down there. So why him? They found something and they wanted people's opinions. Something.
I know
something's
why.
going on.
I know why. Hey, Buzz, we want to show you something. Is this what you saw on the moon?
Ah.
Are these them? Maybe are these the ships you saw? Is this the guy you saw, the alien? Is that what you saw? That'd be interesting.
That would be.
I bet you that's what it is.
It kind of makes sense too.
No, why him? He's 80 years old at the time. No, and didn't they bring the Pope down there? I think
Yes.
the Pope went.
Yeah.
How
All
does
these
he,
different weird head of states that they brought down there.
It
And
was
I've
weird.
always found it fascinating. Like, what is going on down there?
In 2004, that when I first got into this field, there was a strange broadcast that came over. I was listening to something on AM radio, and it said all the world's navies, this was the announcement, are in the Pacific Ocean about 500 miles southwest of the Hawaiian Islands, and they're all getting together for an event. And then the tsunami happened a day after they, or 2 days after they left that area. That big tsunami that killed 250,000 people on Christmas
in Indonesia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the hell were all of the world's navy? Not a lot. There's probably 4 or 5 countries that have navies, but they all got together down there. They said there was like 100 ships, and they were out there to see a presentation of something, but they never told us what. And there was no update after that. After they left, they said, I remember hearing they're going to be leaving in about 48 hours once the event has taken place. What that event is, we'll have to find out, wait and find out. And we never found out, but the tsunami happened.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there was a new weapon that they were testing.
Yeah. Wasn't it like a major deep sea earthquake that happened that part of the sea floor actually lifted up quite a bit that launched that water toward Indonesia?
Yeah, because I guess the displacement of water was so big, from the mountain moving with plate tectonics, that happens, but that was unusually big. Yeah, that was unbelievable.
Just a strange coincidence, man. That's all.
Is it?
Is it though?
I mean, I'm the only one who knows of it, I think. Nobody else remembers seeing that or hearing that. And I remember talking about it on my show, so I'll have to find that show. This was years ago. 04,
yeah.
Or 05, rather. No, 04. I think it was 04.
Yeah. The other day on your show, speaking of your show, you played a video, a piece of evidence that I thought was fantastic. The one where you had the object that was floating in the sky, and then the 2 objects go zipping by it and actually maneuver to go around it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was my fleet sighting.
Yeah. I've never seen anything like that. And the only thing that I could say by looking at that, and people, you got to check out that video, go and find his show where he shows that one. What episode was that? Like 2 day?
They can find it. All they have to type in is UFO Fleet April 2012.
Okay. So there you go. UFO Fleet April 2012.
Is it 2012? No, 2000. Just put Rich Giordano UFO Fleet, and you'll get the 2 fleets I captured. That's it.
Yeah. It looks to me like if it was going to be anything, that there was some type of missile test going on, and they were redirecting the missile around the target. But it's not a missile. I mean,
it wasn't. Yeah. There's no.
That was the only thing I could think of. Is like
that would be. Yeah, it was impossible because I saw the whole thing happen, and it was really strange. I was just sitting at an intersection, saw a flash, thinking maybe it was somebody's mirror, reflecting the sun or something, whatever. But I looked up anyway, because that's what I usually do. I had the sunroof open, and I see like these objects, just like, well, it looked like paper in a dust devil, and we had those in we have them in Arizona. It's like the same ones they have on Mars. It's just, the wind, and it makes a little tornado, and it throws stuff up 1,000 feet in the sky. everything, except the heavy stuff. So I thought it was that, but I didn't see any dust. And it was over a place that was all concrete. Usually it doesn't happen like that. It happens in an open area in the desert. Yeah, it's rare that one would happen where I was. But anyway, I saw another flash. And then when the light turned green, because I was at the intersection, I went to the Walgreens parking lot and stood out of the sunroof and recorded what you saw. And it was really strange because there was about 30 of them. At first, when they were all doing this in this vortex, it's like the vortex stopped and they all went different directions. And I could only see maybe 5, 6, 7 of them at this point. And I can't find them. I'm keeping my camera here and I'm looking around. I don't see any more flashes. And then you saw what I saw, which, a little bit out of focus. It was hard. That was a new camera for me, and I only had it a week. So I wasn't familiar with the, how it works perfectly and trying to focus. And yeah, it was weird. That one object just stopped, literally stopped, and 2, went right towards it. One didn't head right on it, but the other one was going right for it. And at the last second, it went right around it.
Yeah.
That blew me away. Now, if that was balloons, it would have bounced into it and moved the other one.
Yeah, there's no way.
And if it was paper, why would 2 pieces of paper be in a perfectly straight line going past this thing that's hovering? Unbelievable sighting. It was so much fun.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's one of the best ones I've seen that makes you really think like, okay, if they're doing some type of aircraft flying or whatever, that's one thing, just danger wise, you would not want to do that with military aircraft at all. And you're not going to sit there and fire live rounds at another aircraft and, see if your countermeasures are going to work. Yeah. You don't do it that way. And that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like two objects going toward a stationary one. One just kind of goes by it, but the other one it diverts. And no, it's not birds. It's not balloons for sure. You can tell those things are under some type of propulsion, that they are moving.
Some people might call those actual tic-tacs.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
They look like it.
They could be.
Maybe I recorded it all the way back then,
So before I switch subjects on you a little bit, and you brought up the tic-tac stuff, what is your thoughts? Let's put it here on the record about the Go Fast, tic-tac, and gimbal videos that the Navy, well, I don't think they released them on purpose, but they declassified them. And they were kind of, depending on whose story you want to believe, they were leaked to the New York Times by Christopher Mellon, Lou Elizondo, one of them, both of them, who knows? But what are your thoughts on that?
The gimbal is a drone, in my opinion, for sure. The Go Fast is a balloon or a bird. I don't believe that's a tic-tac or whatever anybody says. I think that it's got to be some sort of balloon. There's a lot of parallaxing going on with that video, so it looks like it's going faster than it is, but none of these objects made blinding moves or incredible moves or high speeds or anything like that. And the other one, the tic-tac, is nothing. I don't know. That's an interesting one because I don't know. Isn't that the one they locked in on? Right?
Yeah, well, that's the one that comes with the Fravor, stories about what it was doing beforehand. And then he returned to the ship, and then they sent 2 other jets to go to where this thing ended up. And that's where the video comes from, the targeting pod of the second flight that went there and found it. So there's a little bit more information we have about that, the way that it was moving. It was counter, as Fravor was going one way, it was kind of mirroring Fravor and coming up to meet him and kind of doing the whole dogfight circular type of thing. Yeah, so we got a little bit more information on that. Those other 2, I don't know what to make of them.
They're not UFOs or exotic technology, I promise, because the government won't show that. They're not going to show that type of stuff. If they won't give us a picture of something, of a plain disc where you can't tell what the propulsion is, why would they give us this? Because it's clear, it's grainy, there's no detail, and you can say anything you want, and nobody's going to know if you're right or wrong. And as far as tic-tac goes, nobody has ever seen a tic-tac yet. Nobody has recorded a tic-tac yet. Only these guys out over the ocean have seen the tic-tacs. I don't think it's real. I think it's Lou Elizondo and the government using that as a threat to get the funding they needed for their spying room, that they want to get technology from all other countries. That's all this room is for, is to see what our adversaries have and what our friends have. And then we could steal it from them or tell them they can't use it. Yeah, we're just dirty. But I'd rather be here than there.
Yeah. True. Okay. Well, UFOs and the paranormal seem to go together. And I noticed that you have done a lot of paranormal research. Can you tell us a little bit? And by paranormal, I know people will say, well, UFOs are paranormal. They're not normal. Okay, fair enough. Okay, ghosts, spirits, cryptids, those kind of things. What's your experience with that? And what do you think of some of that stuff? Any personal experience?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I'd be here for a while telling you some of the things that have happened. But I went on a couple of ghosts. We went to Tombstone, Arizona twice. I went with an all-girl team. They invited me to go a long time ago because they were on my show and they invited me. So, living in Arizona, I went to Tombstone and we heard gunfire, like a shootout almost, like pop shots were going off right next to us. And it was pretty wild stuff. It wasn't something that was far away, it was pretty wild. I did my brother-in-law passed away. So my sister was moving out of that house, and then the house caught on fire, and then it had to get rebuilt. And during the rebuilding, because he died in the house, he had brain cancer, so he died at home. So I went there to investigate only a year after he passed away, and I didn't catch anything from him, but I got what we think is his daughter who died at 13 from leukemia. And I think I got her because holy crap, it sounds just like her. And wow. And I also had the camera around me and a strap, and it got pulled. And I went to go stand up and it pulled me down. And I've had that happen. That was unbelievable. I've heard my name being whispered in my ear at the gym years ago. I'm talking 20 years ago. I seen stuff at the gym I work out now with people there because I live in a retirement community because I'm that old.
You're not that old.
Well, I'm not 55 yet, but people have died all around me.
Yeah.
So I think we have them walking around where they died here. Just the other day, I was working out, and this never happened before, but I almost got hurt. I took the weights off the rack, right? There were 50s. And when I went to step away, it felt like somebody stepped on my foot. And I couldn't lift my foot. I almost fell down. I had to drop the weight.
Wow.
That, to me, freaked me out because there was nothing there, and I couldn't move my foot. And I mean, I moved it right after I almost fell, but it stayed like somebody they stepped on my foot. And when I was falling, I still couldn't lift it. And my knee still hurts a little bit from that because I tweaked it a little. Yeah. So it's weird what I'm going through. And I don't know if it's because I vibrate at a certain level. So I'm like a beacon to everything paranormal now. But I don't know. Maybe I am. Maybe because I'm just talking about it. Maybe because we talk about it, we're inviting it.
Right.
We'll have to do a second interview, and I'll have to tell you sometime about the Ouija board stories.
Oh no, man.
Oh yeah, real bad. I won't even use it anymore.
I've heard from people that have played around with those things, and I won't touch them. So yeah, we'll
never heard these stories. Wait until you hear what happened, and it's real.
Well, I was just going to ask you, do you have a favorite paranormal or UFO story that you like to tell people? Do you got one in particular?
Yeah, my parents. Yeah. They have one of the best stories you'll ever hear.
Well, what is it?
Oh, you want me to tell it?
Yeah, let's go.
So this will take about 3 minutes to tell. So bear with me.
No problem.
So in 2005, they built a house on the ledge of a mountain, or the edge of a mountain. It overlooks Phoenix. It's a place called Troon. And Troon, Scottsdale, Troon, whatever. It's a major golf complex area, very high society up there and all that shit. You know, it's like really beautiful. But they kept because it was in the McDowell Mountains, on the mountains itself, they try to keep the preserve exactly the way it was when they moved there. So behind their backyard is real desert. Like, you can't walk through it. It's got thick cactuses, rattlesnakes, rocks, like, I mean, it's bad, real treacherous. You can't walk down it unless you had thick boots on. So I'm just giving you a visual of why I'm telling you this, because where their ledge or edge of the mountain is, about 1,000 feet across, is where the next ledge is. And there's like a big valley in between them. Only 1,000 feet, but it goes pretty far down, like 400 feet. Across the way, when they just got the house built, I was going over there regularly. This was in 2005. And I had my camera. I took it everywhere with me. And we're sitting in the backyard. And my dad goes, "You see that over there?" And I look, and I go, "I don't know what you're talking about." He goes, "The light in the tree." I go, "Light in the tree?" And I grabbed my camera and I focused in. I go, "Oh my God, what is the light doing in the bush?" He goes, "I don't know. Since we moved here, it's been getting brighter every week." And I go, "No shit." And I go, "Okay, well, that was Thursday I was there. I went over on Sunday. And I go, "Is the light still there?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's still there." And my mother's like, it got brighter. So, I looked at it, I recorded it, and I'm like, "All right, well, can we get over there and see?" And he goes, "I don't know, do a satellite thing and see if we can get over there." So I pulled the satellite up of the area, and it is just desert. I mean, there's no roads going to there. Now, we could possibly walk, but we would have to go all the way around the community through a gated part that we're not supposed to go in. So it's private property over there, but that part is part of the preserve. So it's public, but it isn't. We're not supposed to go there. So when I looked at the satellite, I said, I don't see anything that looks like a cave entrance or a burial of anything, like somebody put a candle there, or, one of those lighted things that uses the sun, solar energy and charges it. So I'm like, I don't know. Maybe somebody buried their dog or something, Dad. I don't know. He goes, "Well, it doesn't make sense, and I don't know what it is. It's weird." So Thursday comes back up again, and of course the light's still there. Sunday goes, the light's still there. So the next Thursday I come over, and as soon as I walk in the door, my mother's like, "You got to see how bright it is. You got to see how bright the light is." And I'm like, "No way." So I videotape it, and you can see it in the bush. It's pretty bright. It looks like somebody has a flashlight and they're just shining it. But it's not. You don't see any beams coming off of it. It's just illuminated, but it doesn't look like it's illuminating the area.
Oh, dude, man, you're saying that, and that is exactly like those damn orbs that were in that triangle we saw. They were glowing, but they weren't illuminating anything around at all.
It's very strange. Yeah. Same thing with the Phoenix lights. People said that about the Phoenix lights as well. So later that night at 3:30 in the morning, my phone rings, and I live 45 miles from them directly south in Chandler. And I hear my mother going, Richie, can you hear me? And I'm like, "Yeah, what? What's wrong?" And I hear like my father yelling, and sounded like a loud rumbling. And And I hear my father coming closer to the phone, about to grab it. And he's like, the Chinook helicopters are here. They're taking the light out of the ground. I'm like, what? He goes, they got the army here. They're telling us not to come outside. He goes, this is unbelievable. Can you see it? Can you see it from where you are? And there is a small possibility I could have seen it because I have a view of the mountains 40 miles away, but I couldn't because they're embedded in the mountain behind it, and the angle of it I couldn't see. So he goes, they're putting something around it. They pulled the light out. I go, did you take a picture? He goes, my batteries died. I don't have a camera to take a picture. And this is 2005. So he didn't have a cell phone with a camera. So I'm like, he goes, there's 4 Chinook helicopters and they're taking it out. I'll keep you on the phone. Tell me if you can see them. They might head your way. So I'm outside on the phone at 3:35 in the morning waiting for this thing. And he's like, can you hear it? It's so loud. I can't believe all the lights. Oh, my God. And he's my mother and him are yelling, it's so bright. Oh, my God, the light is so bright, Richie. They're pulling it. They're taking it your direction. Can you see it? And I'm like, I don't see it. And I never saw it. But they pulled this light out of the ground where my parents lived. And I still have the video of the light before it turned big and bright. And they said they couldn't tell how big it was, but they had put a net around it. And one of the helicopters took the actual light and went over the mountain my direction, which means they were going to probably Tucson, because they got military base down there, or they could have went 65 miles west to Luke Air Force Base, but that's just an Air Force base. They probably didn't go there. And it would have been away from the city. They could have stayed over, they could have went high and hit it going over a non-populated area instead of going over. So that's one of the cool stories that I have in my arsenal about a strange light being pulled out of the ground across the street from where my parents live.
That's amazing because it sounds like those UFO retrieval teams that you hear about. Wow.
But how do they know about it? I think because of me, because my website was being watched at the time. And it was, my website was so watched by the Russian Federation, and you could see IP addresses of 100 or 200 in a row in sequential order.
Oh,
that
wow.
say Russian Federation, Chinese, what is the Chinese Revolution or whatever it is? China this, China, hundreds of those. And they were watching me. And then I got a virus that killed my laptop and broke the diagnostic machine at Best Buy.
Oh my God, that's amazing, man.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Wow. And now when they were yelling, it's loud, can you hear it? Could you hear it? Anything through the phone?
It was breaking up like a bad windstorm in the phone.
Yeah.
But I heard helicopters. Yeah. I could hear it.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yep. And not one of the neighbors were out, everybody was out at 3:30 in the morning over there and nobody got a picture. I went and rang everybody's doorbell. Nobody got it. But, I got a nice report on it. So it was fun to talk about.
Man, those Chinooks are big helicopters.
There were 4 of them.
Yeah.
My dad said, yeah, they were big. And he said it woke us up. We thought there was an earthquake happening. It was so loud, Richie, you couldn't believe how loud. I never, ever want to do that again. It was funny. So cool that this stuff happens.
Yeah, that's really cool. And
what are the odds it happens to my family, me in the field only a year? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, no, it's because you put that stuff up on the web.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's exactly why. Now, the fact that they happened to spot it, well, maybe that's just luck. But the fact that you recorded it and then put it out there and kept on saying, hey, it's back again and all this stuff, it piqued some interest for sure.
Yeah, and you can see the light in the bushes, in the bush or whatever that, those trees that we have in Arizona.
Now, on the flip side of that, do you have any favorite debunking stories? Anything that jumps out at you that was so bad that you keep it in the back of your head as a story to tell about one of the worst faked UFO things you've ever seen or dealt with or debunked?
Well, there's plenty of them. but one is a guy named, I guess I could say his name, it doesn't matter anymore, Jeff Woolwine. And this guy has a website called Petroglyphs in the Sky. And the petroglyphs in Arizona, from the Hohokam and all the other Indians and all that, the indigenous, they, in his opinion, drew the sightings of things on the rocks. They drew what they saw in the sky. So a round thing would be, a sphere, or, a little squiggly line would be a sky worm, and things like that. But I did some research on this guy and found out that he and his kid was releasing balloons down yonder, and he would record them.
Oh.
And I interviewed his neighbors, and they all knew him as the UFO guy and Balloon Boy. And I gave him the nickname Balloon Boy because that's what his neighbors called him. And this guy wanted to be well known and make money. That's all he wanted to do in this field, was get a TV show. And every time I'd see him, he'd go, "Hey, Richard, I'm going to get my own TV show on cable." I go, "You're not getting a TV show. You're paying for it on PBS. I go, "You're paying to be on TV. Nobody should do that." "Yeah, if I still got a TV show, what do you got?" I go, "Well, the #1 show the last 3 years. I don't know. I don't know about you." But anyway, but he was this type of guy who sounded like he knew what he was talking about, but didn't know what he was talking about. And I debunked him so bad. And we had little wars between each other and whatnot, and fighting with radio hosts and all this other stuff. But man, I don't know how or why people would believe a guy like that. And here I am proving it, having interviews of people. "Oh, you could have just paid those people." Like, here we are again, 15 years later, and people are still saying that stuff. "Oh, you paid somebody to do this or that." I'm like, can't anybody do anything for legitimate reasons anymore? Can anything be legit? So, yeah, that was a huge debunk. Yeah.
Well, I see, with over 6,000, almost 7,000 people on my Facebook group for our podcast, I see some things that are turned in that people just, you're moving your camera and taking a picture, and you're saying that the squiggly line is something. And I think there's a thing of, number one, people want attention, but number two, people really want to believe in this stuff. I mean, the whole poster of the X-Files of "I want to believe," that's legitimate. People want to believe in something higher than themselves, higher than humans on this planet, just because I think that's something that we like to look forward, like there's something above us, and that's it. I mean, religion, you could go all the way with that, but it just aggravates me. And that's one thing I said on your show that I'm going to repeat here, is that one thing I really like about what you do on YouTube is that whenever I decide that I'm like starting to fall into the rabbit hole, and I'm going to put all my eggs in one basket, and this is, this stuff's legit, this is the way it is, your show has a tendency to help snap me back into that reality and put not the skeptic hat on, but show me the evidence. Let's look at this. And we don't have any evidence, and we don't need people faking stuff for their own attention seeking behavior. We need the real thing. And I don't know. I know you do one thing, and maybe you can talk about this before we wrap this up, but you do what you call GUFON University, I believe.
Yeah.
You talk about like the proper ways to start documenting if you are seeing something, or if you see something, how you should go about it. Why don't you give us a little like high level review of what you talk about for that, and then we'll just get ready to wrap it up here.
Yeah, I originally started talking because I wanted to teach people about, well, originally it was just to showcase my videos. Then as the years go on, I realized, well, I think I know more than the average person at this point. So maybe I could, tell people what to do. And with 21,000 hours behind me, I think at this point, And I've tried over 20 different cameras over the years, which, by the way, those cameras don't even exist anymore. So I'm behind on that. But I do have a Nikon P900. So at least I've got a camera. Basically, GUFON University is to teach how to, I teach what I learned. And I put different episodes together. And one of them was, how to record at night, how to record during the day, check your settings, get a tripod. Do you have an optical imaging stabilizer? Are you using the right settings? Are you using this? Is it manual focus? Is it automatic focus? When you fill out your report and you get stuff, are you putting the date, the time, the weather? Are you putting how many people saw it, how fast it went, what it looked like? Did you feel anything? Did you dream anything? Everything you can think of should go in this report. And people aren't even putting timestamps on anything anymore. They're just saying, hey, it happened a couple of days ago, and then you find out it was 5 years ago. That happens, and it kills the credibility of the field instantly.
Yeah.
But I try to impart what I've learned, and teach people that all the mistakes that I made, because I know, I always call it trial and error, because that's what I've done. Everything is trial and error. I've made more mistakes than anybody. I said the same things you people have said. I know that's an alien. I know that's a UFO. And I think everybody should have somebody next to him. I had my wife at the time. You have your wife. And my wife kept me level-headed because I would show it to her. And she's like, are you out of your mind? I'm trying, babe. I'm trying. She's like, you can't do that. So after a while, you're like, yeah, you know what? Just be honest. The field is strange enough as it is. There's no reason to lie. And if you think you're going to get away with faking anything, you're not. And in this field, I've seen it all. And a lot of people are doing stuff that's already been done. If you look at the internet now, how old is it? 25 years old now or something? It's been around. YouTube's been around, 15 years?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's nothing that can get by us, but there are things that can fool us. That's for sure. And with this new AI technology that's now out, that can make AI photos, videos, it's going to be so much harder. Ever since I thought drones was it. I thought the drones, that's it. Drones, birds, balloons, bugs, satellites, and planes. I'm done. I can't do it anymore. Now you add in artificial intelligence. Oh my God. You won't be able to trust anything in a couple of years.
Well, yeah. And then add into that VR.
Oh my God. Why do you do that to me? That's right.
the metaverse,
injury.
Man.
Oh no, that's right. That's right. Sooner or later, that's going to be reality. It's fun. I mean, I love the field, and I'm passionate. Just to circle back to the very first thing you asked me, why am I so passionate? I have a lot invested in this field. I have my own videos. I have my own experience. I have my own voice out there forever now on the internet. And that's why I don't lie, because it will come back to bite you. I spent my whole life trying not to lie to people. I'm probably one of the most honest people you'll ever meet, to a point where it's broken up relationships, fights with the family. You asked me, do I look fat in this? Yes, you look fat in that. As a matter of fact, you always look fat in that. No, I never said. But you know what I mean? If somebody doesn't want to know the truth, don't ask. If you want me to look at your videos and say, be as honest as you want, I could take it. And then I tell them it's a balloon. I saw the string. Are you crazy? You don't think I could tell the difference between a balloon and a UFO? And I'm like, yeah, you didn't see the string. And the next thing you know, they're calling me a Nazi, misogynist, racist. That's a true story, by the way.
Yeah,
No, well, you don't know that one. That was a guy named Gutter Gawker. And he says, whatever just be honest. And he used to be friends of the show, donated and all this stuff. And one day I just was so nice to him in front of everybody. I said, bro, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's a string. You don't think I can tell the difference? And he just lost it in front of everybody. But anyway.
It's like when you bust somebody's religion, man. It's, they're invested and they're down that rabbit hole and they think they've got it right. And man, people do not like to be told when they're wrong. No matter how
no matter how you say it.
Yeah.
Is that what you were going to say?
Yep.
I was going to say, and why would you get mad at knowing the truth? Why you get mad at me? I mean, you came to me, you asked me, and I'm sorry you didn't see that. Maybe you need to get your eyes checked. And that is true. A lot of people have bad vision, don't even know it. It's a shame.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say.
I miss things, I'm sure, because I'm colorblind, right? So, God only knows, what my vision is like compared to somebody like you or somebody who's had LASIK and has got perfect color vision and things like that. I know in the Army it served me well because I don't see shades, so camouflage doesn't work very well for me.
Cool. I didn't know that.
So, and I had really good night vision for the longest time until I hit about 48 or so, and that pretty much, the eyes start going down, dealing with glaucoma, and then all kinds of stuff. So just getting old sucks, man.
I know, because we're not supposed to live past, I think, 50 anyway.
Yeah.
Naturally,
amazing.
if you think about it, how we were back in the day when we were just cave people, we probably, because of the elements, we would die, but they didn't live that long, because they didn't have anything to protect them from eating bad meat or anything like that.
Sure. Plus, all the predators that are out there, we could have been easily hunted. There was a lot of things, and there's still a lot of things out there in Mother Nature that want to kill you. So, let alone natural disasters, but, come face to face with a hungry bear or step on a cub or something and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, we're going to wrap it up here, man. So just two last things I want to ask you. Do you have any ties to Michigan? That's kind of like our signature question. And, any relatives come up here at all for anything, fishing, hiking, camping, hunting?
Never been there. I've neber even dated a girl from Michigan. I don't know anybody.
Well, we've heard that one before too about, I think one of my exes is up there somewhere. So
no, but I hear there's some really good UFO sightings that happen over there.
Man, I'll tell you what, it is hopping here in Michigan, and I think it has a lot to do with three things. The former nuclear Nike missile sites that used to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the Cold War days. So surrounding all of Detroit were nuclear missile sites. And we had nuclear weapons that were being, fitted onto bombers here that could go over the North Pole to retaliate against the Russians. So there's that. Currently, we have some nuclear power plants around here. And then we've got all the fresh water that is extremely deep, like really deep. Yeah. That surrounds the state. So we get a lot of reports on our Facebook page about, people seeing things on the west side of the state going in and out of Lake Michigan. And these are, I guess you would call them transmedium. They're not just aircraft sightings of things going into O'Hare over in Chicago. Yeah. These are legit. Okay, it's a ball of light, fine, but show me a drone that goes down into the water and then pops out and can fly around. So we've been getting those kind of reports and things, and Lake Superior is.
There are drones now that can go in the water and come back.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look into that.
One. Yeah, a couple of drone companies made a few that are unbelievable.
Wow.
Go in the water and go underwater and then come back out and fly away.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. They're new, like 2 years old. Yeah.
Well, is that private company?
No. It's a public company. I don't remember the name, but I did so much research when I was purchasing my drone, and I came upon that video, a couple of videos where they're diving in water with drones now. I don't remember the name of the company. I think Parrot, maybe it's Parrot Drones. I'm not sure, but
well, then definitely our military probably has that.
Yeah, that's just like the Jeremy Corbell video. Splash, splash.
Yeah, sub-launch drones that they can use, I'm sure. All right, last question for you, and we're going to get you out of here. Where can people find you on the web, and what is your streaming schedule if they want to check you out?
Well, they can find it's GUFON Network. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter, and mainly just go to YouTube and look up GUFON, GUFON, and all the links will be in any of the show's descriptions. So you can go on any show and go in the description and find all the links to me, or on the homepage of GUFON on YouTube, where the About button is. I go every night almost. I do take some Thursdays off and Sundays. I think I'm going to take today off. And it is Sunday. Yep. So I go at 7 o'clock and 5 o'clock on Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, and Saturday at 5.
Okay, awesome. And I will provide links in our show notes for this show. And if people want to go check you out, I highly advise it. It will give you a different perspective on the whole UFO paranormal idea from somebody that has the experience to talk about this. And it's been awesome, stumbling upon your show and digging into you a little bit to figure out what was going on and why people were mentioning you and seemed to have this hatred for you. And I'm like, why is everybody all upset? Oh, he's debunking things and hitting them in their emotions a little bit. So, and people don't have a humorous bone in their body when it comes to this stuff, I've found. So, But all right, Rich, it's been great. And any last words before we end the show?
Yeah, I don't want people to go to GUFON and think I'm an angry person, because I'm so far from angry. It's passion. I'm passionate about this field. I'm passionate about doing it, passionate about doing the right thing. And I'm passionate when it comes to people making money off of lies. And there's been so much going around, all this hate for certain channels and people, including myself. I've been guilty of doing it too, but I don't hate it. If you're going to come over to GUFON, be ready for something you've never seen before on any talk show, if you've never seen it before, because it's brutal honesty. I know it's me saying it, but all I want to do is just make people laugh and give them what the truth is, as I see it, I guess. So that's it. That's all. I just want people to have fun in this field. Everybody's so tightly wound, and let's wear a tie, it makes us more official, and just be yourself and have some fun. Life is too short. Ufology is a serious thing, but it's not so serious you can't laugh. Jesus. Sorry. Aliens.
All right. Awesome. All right, everybody, make sure you get onto YouTube and you check out GUFON, Giordano UFO Network. So awesome. All right, Rich, thanks for coming on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Mr. Rich Giordano from GUFON. Very interesting conversation tonight. Ufology is a very strange thing to get into. There's all types of different people that are involved, different belief systems. You name it, it's out there. So I guess the only thing I could recommend is that you search for your own truth and look for yourself, do your own research, but don't buy into any one thing. Keep your options open. And as Rich said, why would you not want to know the truth about some of these things? There are people out there that hoax just for the attention. So I would say just be careful. Keep your mind open and don't subscribe to any one thing. Do your own research. Find out what is going on. Do you have a lot of information on some of these videos to be able to come to a conclusion? If not, don't buy into it. Just move on. All right, everybody. We're going to wrap this up tonight. So we once again want to thank Rich Giordano for joining us from GUFON. It was a great conversation. We'll have him back on some point in the near future. And we just want everybody to have a good night and Remember, keep your eyes to that sky.
You have been listening to the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast. You can reach us at mi.ufo.podcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter at mi_UFO and join our Facebook group by searching for Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters. So until next time.